But welcome everyone to our supported decision making training series for this summer. This will be our second session, so hopefully everyone has joined last week where we provided an introduction to supported decision making. This week we'll be diving into supported decision making in finances as well as supported decision making in education as well. And so we have some great speakers. We have professionals and self-advocates that will be sharing about both of these topics to us. Before we begin, we did want to share some announcements from DVU. Some of our announcements are we are having an empowerment and practice, self-determination, and supported decision-making conference. So we are hosting one in Oakland on September 11th, and then a Los Angeles version on November 19th. And so we're going to be adding the information to this conference in the chat for everyone. Other announcements we have is Think Outside the Box. We will host this the fourth Wednesday of every month. And our August training will be on the spending plan. And so we've pasted the instructions to register for this event in our chat as well. Finally, our last announcement is DVU, our ambassador program, is opening up applications, and we're hosting an informational meeting tomorrow from 5 to 6. So we're including information about our ambassador program, what it's about, as well as the link to register for the information session tomorrow as well. So we're providing all of these links for everyone in the chat below. And for those who just joined us, I just want to remind everyone to please select what language you would like to be listening into today's meeting on. You can select it by clicking the interpretation globe that may show up at the bottom of your bar. Please select English, Korean, or Spanish. Even if you are listening in English, make sure you select the English button. If the globe is not showing up, sometimes you might have to click more and then select language interpretation and choose your language there. All right, everyone. So we'll go ahead and begin with introducing Tina Ewing Wilson to talk about supported decision-making in finances.
Hello, everybody.
Vivian, can I share mine first so that way yours becomes the default? Thank you.
Before we begin, slides are being provided both in English and in Spanish. So if you just have to toggle at the top of your screen to click on whether or not you want to be viewing the English slides or the Spanish slides. All right, and we'll pass it off to Tina to begin.
Hello, everybody. I think everybody uses supported decision making in their lives. Even people without disabilities use supported decision making. If we don't know how to do something, we turn to other people who do, like for taxes or other things. We shouldn't be ashamed to ask for help. It's important to ask for help when you need help. A lot of people don't want to ask for help, but if we don't get help when we have to make important decisions, then we might make the wrong decision, and it's better to get help first so that you make better decisions. Right, Vivian?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Tina. And so today, Tina wanted to be able to come share her story and her lived experience as a self advocate who uses supported decision making in finances. And when we talk about this, we always talk about how supported decision making is an alternative to conservatorship. And Tina is not conserved, and she has been able to manage her finances with the support of others. And so let's continue to talking about Tina's story and her journey of using supported decision making in her finances.
Let's face it, in life, you don't know what you're good at or not good at until you try to do it. So, like, when I entered self-determination program, my family did not support my choice because they know I don't do math, and they were worried that that would cause me too many problems. And so I had to fight them had to fight them first because they were afraid I wouldn't be able to pay my rent and things like that. But if you need help with something and you ask for help with it, that's part of supported decision making. I talk to my circle of support and find out what they suggest I do sometimes because I don't do math. So, like having a bank account and having the ability to pay my rent and stuff was a big concern. So, we set me up with something called a representative payee. And the representative payee pays my rent for me and my bills, and then gives me money to use to buy my groceries and stuff, which is fewer decisions that I have to make. And but I still get to make decisions. They don't take away all of my choices, but they make it easier for me to make the choices that I need to make. Um, I've made a lot of mistakes, but you know that's how you learn. So one of the ways I figured out I needed a rep PE was when I almost lost my house because I didn't ask for help soon enough. I don't do math, so figuring out how much money is in my checking account is really, really, really hard for me. So I'm when the card still works, I keep using it. But there's not as much money in your account as your card makes you think there is, because it doesn't always tell you what's in there. Um, Sometimes stuff is pending and hasn't gone through. So it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to figure it out as you go. Mistakes are how we learn. It wasn't the end of the world. I made a lot of mistakes, but it wasn't the end of the world, and that's okay. Knowing what your limits are isn't a bad thing. It's not weakness to ask for help. Some people will tell you that that is the case, but it's not. Knowing your limits is a strength because if you know the boundaries of what you can do on your own, then you'll do the things you can do on your own and you'll ask for help for the rest. One of the things that I have learned that I don't want other people to have to learn from my mistakes. One of the mistakes I made in the beginning was I utilized all of my staff to help me make choices. I have figured out that that's not always the best choice. I don't give all of my staff access to my financial decisions. I don't want all of my staff to know what my PIN code is. It's okay to choose one person that you really trust and use just them. Because it gets really hard and really confusing when you have too many people helping you. And sometimes you can run into a conflict of interest. For example, when I decide how much my staff are going to get paid, I don't ask my staff. that's a conflict of interest. They don't get to tell me what they want to get paid. Yes, they can have some input into that. Like they can say I won't work for that, but they don't get to decide what my budget says I can pay them. That's the job of my IF, and he's good at his job, and I trust him. So we figure out how much to pay people that way. It's a conflict of interest to be the one who decides what you get paid out of my budget. One of the things it is important to remember when it comes to finances is you don't have to trust everybody. It's actually detrimental if you trust everybody. It's okay not to trust everybody. You can say, I don't really want you to do that part of my decision making anymore. I want this person to do it. That doesn't mean you don't want them to be your caregiver anymore. It just means maybe you trust the other person more. Or maybe situations have changed and you just don't want everyone to help you with that. That's okay. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to say how you feel. And it's okay to know who to ask for help. It's kind of like hard to like take that away from somebody, but it's okay to do that. You have to set boundaries and it's hard to do, but you can do it. I think that covers that one pretty good, right, Vivian?
Thank you so much for sharing that, Tina. I think what we really want to emphasize is as a self advocate, you are choosing the supporters that help you, and everything is flexible. In Tina's case, maybe she's learned that this staff member is no longer a part of her circle of support for financial decisions, but that doesn't mean they can't be in her circle of support for other decisions. So it's learning what she's good at, and she was sharing how math isn't one of her strong suits, and so she's going to surround herself with people who are good at math to help her where she needs help for finances. But just because she isn't good at math in one situation doesn't mean that a conservatorship is needed and she needs to run her budget and every purchase through someone else. Tina still has the power to make her own decisions, just getting support when she needs it. Um, and so, as we go into our next slide, Tina will share more about knowing what her support needs are for finances and knowing what types of services are available to her. Tina is going to share more about it in her perspective, and our speaker for our speaker after Tina will share more about the technical aspects of each of these points as well.
One of the things that's important to know is it's important to know what your rights are. It's your right to have support making decisions, and it's your right to make informed choice. That means you don't have to guess. That means the people in your circle of support need to tell you everything. If a decision means it can go two different ways, they need to tell you both ways. They need to tell you, okay, if you make this choice, you're going to experience something bad, but you might experience something good, and I have the right to know both. A person who's being a support person shouldn't tell you what they want you to do. They should tell you what will happen if you choose each choice. Because it's your choice, not their choice. And you're not them. So it's important to support people by listening to what they want. I want to have a job, but I'm afraid of losing my Social Security benefits or my insurance if I have a job. So my IF and my CSC helped me to get something called benefits counseling. They don't tell you benefits counseling is available. I'm trying to change that because everyone that wants to work needs to know that benefits counseling is available. And I think DVU, because if it wasn't for DVU, I wouldn't even have known it existed. I don't think my IF even knew it existed until I asked him for it. So know that you have the right to know all that stuff. And benefits counseling helps you if you get a job. They help you figure out how much money you can make before it affects your benefits. And if you make that much where it's going to affect your benefits, they help you with that. There are different programs they can put you into that help alleviate some of that. And so you have to tell them what you're earning and you have to talk to them in order to get that to happen. Because if you don't know what the limits are of the programs you're in, then you might accidentally go over and lose your insurance. And you don't have a job that gives you insurance. Well, that's important to have. And then you have to understand how your paycheck's going to impact your asset limit, which I know is a lot of big words, but basically what it means is the amount of money you make can't go over a certain amount without causing problems with your benefits. And so if you want to work but you want to make sure you don't lose your benefits, then you need somebody to help you support you in making those decisions. Um, like one of the decisions I recently had my benefits counselor help me with was there was a possibility that I was going to get a speaking engagement in another state. And that was going to affect things because it would have meant I would have got a large sum of money for doing this. So one of the things she told me was if you take that job, you might want to ask DVU to give you fewer hours during the pay period that happens in, or that I might want to ask them to pay my staff a different way than giving me the money to pay my staff because I have to take my caregiver with me, so they have to pay my caregiver too. And so that was one of the things recently I got counseling with. I also use a representative payee because I acknowledge the fact that I don't do math and I know I need help or my rent's not going to get paid because I get excited when I get a paycheck. I know this about myself. I get excited and I want to buy all the things I didn't get to buy last time.
Mhm.
And I have to be careful about that because food's important. Food's important too, and having enough money to pay the laundromat is important too. And you know, I make snap decisions, and that's not good. So I have people that help me slow down. I ask my staff to help me slow down and think things through before I make decisions, and I talk to them. Talking is important. Communication is key. So my representative PE makes sure that my bills get paid. So my rent gets paid and my phone bill gets paid and my gas and electricity get paid. And then they give me money and I use that money to take care of the needs I have here, to buy my dog food, to buy my groceries and things. And so I make myself have conversations with the people that I trust, which is basically my administrative assistant, and she helps me think it through. We make a grocery list and we decide, okay, do I have enough money to get all that stuff on my list, or do I need to maybe have some things wait for next time? Or, you know, can I buy a puzzle that I want or something else? Can I afford it right now? And still have groceries and still have laundry money. And it's a lot of juggling and it's really hard to do, but you can do it. You can learn. Unfortunately, you learn from your mistakes, and sometimes you learn by wearing dirty clothes because you didn't have the money to do laundry. But that's just part of growing up and being human, and it's okay to go through that. Um, One of the things about my benefits counseling was if you need job coaching to do your job, that actually is one of the things that they can help you to figure out where your limit is, um, which I thought was interesting because I can't do my job without help. Vivian and Kaylee and Judy all help me to figure out what I'm going to say in my talks and take notes for me and stuff like that. It isn't always my staff here that do that. because they don't know all the ins and outs like everybody at DBU does. So DBU takes better notes for me. But when they figure out uh, what program to put you in, that's one of the things they use is your needs. And people don't know your needs if you don't talk about them. So talk about them. I feel like I'm starting to get lost.
Oh, you're doing great, Tina. And so I
Okay.
just wanted to clarify for folks that CSC is your Regional Center Consumer Service Coordinator. Just wanting to share that out there. And so, like Tina was saying, knowing what services and what tools are available to you is really beneficial in helping you make these financial decisions and knowing that you aren't alone, right? That you can have the support. And this can come from staff, this can come from a benefits counselor, it can come from a representative payee. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a person that is in your family, right? This can be someone else that is coming in as well. As we
Yeah, I don't have any family that are involved in my decision making. My dad passed away years ago, and my mom's like elderly and not able to help me with stuff. So I hire other people to help me with stuff, but I also have some friends that I talk to that don't work for me help me make decisions too.
Yeah, and as we go on to our next slide here, Tina can share more about talking about making informed financial decisions. Tina, maybe you can share about a time that you needed support to understand all the different parts before you made a financial decision. And maybe you can share more about developing a system that works for you. In supported decision making, everything is very flexible and things can change, right? A system that works for you now might not be a system that works for you down the road as you learn, as you grow. And so, Tina, I'll let you share more about that.
Okay. Taking time to be patient is really important. Making snap decisions when it comes to money and things like that is never a good idea. So that's one of the things that I struggle with because I do make snap decisions and it's not really a good thing. So I have to be patient with myself. And one of the things, when I first started in SDP, when we first figured out that I was struggling, we used something called an envelope system. And I would get my check and we would parcel it out in envelopes. This is before I had a rep DE. We would put the rent in an envelope, we would put the grocery money in an envelope, we would put money for each thing in an envelope. The problem with the envelope system is people can take your envelopes and you can lose the envelopes too. But it works in the beginning when you're figuring stuff out, and I actually still use the envelope system when I travel so that I know how much money I have for each thing. So that's one way you can do things. Another way you can do things, you can actually have more than one bank account. I didn't know that in the beginning. So I have a savings account, a checking account, and I have something called a secure credit card. A secure credit card, you save up some money and you take it to the bank and you create a credit card at the bank. And it's money you borrow from yourself and you have to pay it back to yourself. And that's been like really helpful because especially if you have bad credit, it helped improve my credit rating. The fact that I paid back all the time. And I use the three accounts for different things. So like if something is pending on my checking account, I mean not my checking account. If something is pending on my credit card account, then I don't use the credit card until it goes says it's not pending anymore. So while I wait for that, I'll use my checking account ATM card instead. Because you don't know how much is in your account if you don't do math. You don't know how much until the pending stuff stops being pending. So when it stops being pending, then I know how much is in there and I can use it. But one thing you have to remember is if you set up stuff like Disney Plus or Microsoft Ultimate so your Xbox will play, you have to remember that those things will go through. And so I know that I always need to have at least $50 available. So I never take my account down below $50. I pretend like 50 is zero because otherwise Disney Plus or Microsoft might go through and there won't be enough to cover it. So you have to be patient and you have to talk to people and you have to figure things out. And like I'm saving up for a TV. So that's what I'm using my savings account for right now. Every paycheck I put a little bit in there and eventually I'll have enough to buy a TV. But that takes patience and I'm not good at patience. But you can watch it grow and that's kind of fun. Just put, we figured out, well, what can I do without this week so I can have a TV next month? And
Yeah,
it's
and
hard to do that stuff without help, but I can do it with help.
yeah, and like Tina, you were sharing with me how your decision to save up for a TV, that's one of your goals, right? You set
Yeah,
it for yourself and you got support with it, right?
yeah,
You are not running every credit card transaction by someone, but you do have a supporter there to help you say, okay, now that we're saving for a TV, what do we need to rebudget, right? Maybe we're
yeah,
going to spend a little less in this area this month so that we can put that extra money towards our TV.
yeah. So, like, I have the freedom to make choices, but I talk to people about what goes wrong because every time we figure out what goes wrong, it's because I didn't do something correctly. Or, well, not, it's not about correct or incorrect, but it's because I learned something new. Like, like that's how I learned that if you don't save enough money in your account, something will bounce, is because something bounced. It wasn't the end of the world. My next paycheck, I had enough money to cover it, and we, put it back through, and everything was fine. The world didn't crash because I made a mistake. But I did change the way I do things, and now 50 is zero for me. So, having a circle of support helps you figure out how to do that stuff, because you got to think outside the box, and it takes more than one person to do that sometimes. Sometimes you have to ask somebody else, what do you do for, to make that happen, because everybody makes financial decisions in their lives every day. We just don't acknowledge that we do, but we do. You have to decide whether you can afford to get coffee at Starbucks. You can't just go get coffee at Starbucks. You have to think about it. Do I have the money to get Starbucks? Do I want to spend the money at Starbucks? Or do I want to hold on to it so I can get the TV? It's something you have to be patient with yourself.
Yeah. And before we pass it off to Ron to discuss more about the technical aspects of all of these tools you can use financially, Tina, maybe you want to share about making large financial decisions, right? Deciding
Yeah,
whether or not you wanted to get Able.
yeah. One of the big decisions I made recently that I almost made a snap decision about, but I'm glad that I didn't. I thought it through. And I talked to my benefits counselor and I talked to my IF about it. I wanted, I was afraid. Never make decisions when you're afraid, because that's when you can make mistakes. So I was afraid because I heard that the resource limit was changing. And if the resource limit changes, then I would have too much money, and I was afraid that I would lose my benefits because of it. So I made a choice and I went to my benefits counselor and I talked to her that I was afraid. And she said, well, there's things we can do, that you have choices. And she told me what my choices all were. One of the things she wanted me to do is she wanted me to stop saving money in Cal Savers because that money can actually affect you. And I didn't know that. And I signed up for Cal Savers when I got my job. So I stopped putting money in Cal Savers. It's still in there. We haven't taken it out. But so I'm not saving money in CalSavers anymore because that can actually affect my resource limit, and I didn't know that. So I'm glad I got help with that. And she said, if it gets to it, we can get you a CalAble. But it also costs more money for me if I have a CalAble because I can't run that on my own. I need the representative payee and benefits counselor's help with that. So that would cost me more money every month, which it comes out of my budget at regional center, but I don't want to do that if I don't need to do that. And so we're actually going to hold off on doing that until we find out how it affects my resource limit. Um, so we, instead of making a snap decision to create a CalAble, we acknowledge it's one of the options. But until we know for sure what the resource limit is, I don't want to utilize that option because then it will cost my budget more. Like and then I have to, because it's almost time for plan renewal for my SDP, and so we want to make sure we have enough money in the budget, and so we don't want to put the money into having them run a CalAble if I don't need the CalAble. So I found out what my options are, and then I chose to wait.
Thank you so much for sharing today, Tina, about how you use these different financial tools to set you up for success as you use supported decision making in your finances. I'm going to pass it over to Ron now from Jewish LA Trust to introduce himself and share more about the technical aspects of the different tools we can use to practice supported decision making in finances.
Ron, you're muted. Thank you.
I could do the whole presentation muted if you'd like. I'm sure that would benefit somebody. Anyway, thank you again for the invitation and welcome to all the participants today. It is an important topic in self-determination and the ability to support yourself. What resources are available to you. I am the trustee at the JLA Trust, and Michelle Wolf is our executive director. She was supposed to be here today, but she's quite ill. So she asked me to step in. But at the very bottom of the presentation and the slides you'll receive is contact information for Michelle. And we invite you to contact us at any time with your questions. We are always happy to answer questions. So if I touch on topics that are specific to your needs, please feel free to reach out and do not hesitate to contact us. Next, Vivian. So today's presentation, I'm going to touch a little bit on the background of what benefits we can protect, our SSI and SSDI especially, and then some of the tools that we can use to support ourselves or our loved ones in their decision making. So joint bank accounts are a great way to go. I will explain more about what a rep payee does and how that works. Get a daily money manager. And Tina, you didn't touch on that, but I don't know if you have a daily money manager. That might be something that you could benefit from. We can get power of attorneys for ourselves. We can grant a power of attorney, or we can find somebody that will act as a power of attorney on our behalf. And then there are special needs trusts, which is a way to put money aside that is above what would be the income or resource limit, and yet still protect your government benefits. And then pooled special needs trust, which is something that JLA Trust offers, is another good way to support you or your loved ones by protecting pools of money that you might get from, say, an insurance settlement. If you're in a car accident or you're evicted wrongfully and you get a pool of money that would put you above the income or resource limit, you can put that money into a pooled special needs trust, especially if you're over 65. And then there are future funded accounts that you can talk to your friends and family about if you're anticipating an inheritance in the future that would put you over the limit. definitely talk to your friends or relatives about establishing a pooled special needs trust. And then Tina touched on CalAble accounts, and I will touch on it as well. Next. So SSI and SSDI are two different benefits. One is need-based and one is not need-based. So Social Security or SSDI benefit does not depend on your income level. SSDI is earned if you have a sufficient number of qualifying quarters of work history, you qualify to receive SSDI. And that is not an entitlement that depends on income level. If you have never worked, or if you are unable to work, if you are a senior citizen who has never worked, if you are a disabled person unable to work, you qualify for SSI, Supplemental Security Income. And you can receive both Medi-Cal and Medicare on SSI. SSDI, you will receive Medicare. You're qualified for Medicare. Next. So SSDI, a disabled child, adult child, if you're over 18 and your parents, you're the child of a parent, you receive a percentage of your parents' Social Security benefits if the child was diagnosed before age 22. You have to be over 18, and then you receive that benefit until your parent retires or becomes disabled or dies. You receive 50%. And then if your parent passes away, you will receive 75% of your parents' retirement as SSDI. And so that is based on your parents' Social Security, not anything that you personally have earned or unable to earn. Next. So income for receiving SSI, and SSI is income based. In other words, I mentioned earlier, if you are unable to work, if you're over 65, if you've never worked, you may be entitled to SSI, but there are defined limits for your income. So for example, if you are working, if you are able to work, you can earn up to $1,600 per month and still be entitled to SSI benefits. But there are limits. If somebody else, for example, is paying your rent, that would be considered income to you. So that's not earned by you, but it's considered income available to you. So that would affect the amount of SSI you receive. And I mentioned litigation awards or legal settlements or inheritances. Any of those things would be considered income to you unless you put them in a special needs trust. And then those benefits are not considered countable resources. If they are countable resources, they will reduce your SSI benefits dollar for dollar. So say that you are receiving SSI of $1,500 a month, but you all of a sudden have your parents paying your rent for you, and your rent is $1,500 per month, you will completely lose your SSI. They will take that away from you because they will say, you already receive $1,500 a month. You do not need an additional $1,500 a month. Now, we all know, especially living in California, that those limits are extremely unreasonable. There is no way that you could survive on $1,500 a month total gross income. So you have to consider these other ways of preserving your benefits. And I'll come to special needs trusts in a minute. I mentioned if you earn income and there's maximum limit is $1,600 per month, but if you are working, SSI will still deduct $1 for every $2 you make. So from whatever your benefit is, you will be deducted, or they will deduct $2 for every dollar that you earn in income. Next. And I'm sorry, I'm moving fairly quickly because I'm aware of the time constraint. But like I said earlier, please feel free to contact Michelle Wolf or myself if you have any questions about any of these slides. Now, Medi-Cal, and it's called Medicaid in other states, but it's specifically Medi-Cal in California. It pays for your medical care, in-home services, long-term care, durable medical equipment, prescription drugs, end-of-life or hospice care, etc. And so Medi-Cal will pay for all of those benefits if you receive SSI. Next. And so in-home supportive services, and I hope that everyone that's on Medi-Cal is taking advantage of this. Medi-Cal will pay for someone to come into your home and care for you. Now, in other states, it's $16 minimum an hour. In some counties, such as LA, it's now $18 an hour. And parents or friends or relatives qualify to be in-home supportive services providers. So don't hesitate to reach out to anybody that would be qualified to help care for you. There is a maximum. It's 283 hours per month, but it's an excellent way to improve your quality of life. Bring those people into your home that can help care for you. If you need help with meal preparation, you need help with personal hygiene, you need help being driven to and from doctor's appointments, these people can be paid to come into your home and help you with those services. So please take advantage of those if you haven't already. Next. Now, Tina touched on the asset limits changing. And in 2025, the asset limit was eliminated, although monthly income limits were not. So asset limits, you could have a pool of money above what it used to be, the $2,000 per month in your bank account, but you still had the $2,000 monthly income limit. So you couldn't make more than $2,000 a month. Now they've changed the rules again. As of January 1st, 2026, there will be new asset limits, and it'll be 130,000 in non-exempt property for a single family member, 65,000 per person for everybody else in your home. So that is 65,000 each for every person above your home. So if you're married or have parents or grandparents living with you and they have income or they have property, all of that can be counted and can be exempt for above, 130,000 for you, 65,000 for each of them. Now, there is a problem coming in 2026. If you received coverage for Medi-Cal during this time when there was no asset limit and it's going to come back, they will penalize you if during this period you had more than $130,000 in assets, not counting your home. So they will penalize you. I don't know how many of you might be affected by that, but again, if you have questions, please reach out to us. Next. And these are the changes that are coming to Medi-Cal in 2026. These affect the states. They don't affect individuals directly. They affect the states and how they can provide Medi-Cal benefits to them. And we'll skip to the next slide. So ways that you can be supported or help support someone else. Joint bank accounts are a great way to do that. If you are worried about your ability to spend money wisely, open a joint bank account with a trusted, Tina mentioned, independent facilitator or a parent or a loved one that you trust, a friend that you trust. But please make sure that it's someone you really trust. There is always the possibility for abuse, and we would hate to see that happen to any of you. But if you're opening a joint bank account, make sure that you open that account payable upon death, and so that the survivor can access the funds after the passing of whoever the joint bank account holder is. Next. A rep payee is another great way to support someone. If you have trouble paying your bills and uh, uh, being responsible with your money, get a rep payee. Ask someone, again, a trusted friend, a parent, an independent facilitator, to be your rep payee. And what is a rep payee? A rep payee is a person either appointed by the beneficiary or appointed by someone on behalf of the beneficiary to receive the benefits that the beneficiary would receive from Social Security. So either your SSI or your SSDI can be paid to a rep payee. The rep payee receives those funds. They're not paid unless they are a nonprofit organization that is uh, recognized by the government to receive funds on behalf of a rep payee. Under certain circumstances, they may be compensated, but not always. And so the rep payee takes that money in trust for the beneficiary. So if the beneficiary says, I want this money to pay my rent every month, the rep payee will pay the rent. They can pay other expenses, utilities, other ongoing expenses. Say maybe you have an ongoing medical expense. The rep payee can pay out this money on your behalf. And it's a great way to make sure that your finances and your funds are being dealt with in a responsible and hopefully professional manner. Next, please. A daily money manager. They're professionals who can provide assistance with day-to-day financial tasks of individuals, families, or small businesses. And anyone can retain a daily money manager. And at the very bottom of that slide, there is a link to how to find a daily money manager. They can help you with tasks like bill paying, bank reconciliation, and record keeping. And they would be an alternative to a rep payee. If you have a rep payee, you do not need a daily money manager. But if you don't have a rep payee and you're struggling, then by all means, reach out to a daily money manager. Next, please. Appoint a power of attorney. A power of attorney could be anyone, and they are recognized as an authority authorized to make decisions on the beneficiary's behalf. They must be 18 years of age at least. The power of attorney that you give them, whatever powers you give them, must be set out very specifically and clearly. So the beneficiary determines what powers their attorney has. Some places, especially banks, will require that you use their form to appoint a power of attorney. So say that you don't want to open a joint bank account, but you want to give somebody the authority to help pay your bills. The bank will require that you sign a specific form authorizing them to make banking decisions on your behalf. And if you have any questions about a power of attorney, please consult a lawyer. For those questions, please don't call Michelle or me. We are not lawyers. We cannot give you legal advice, but there are a number of lawyers, probably even on the DVU website, that you can find, or call your caseworker, case manager. They can refer you to a legal authority to help if you have questions about a power of attorney. Next slide, please. Power of attorneys are a legal document. You have to sign it in front of two witnesses or a notary public. So Those witnesses must be over 18 years old. One of them cannot be the attorney that you're appointing and cannot be a family member or related to the person you're appointing as your attorney. And they also must understand the significance of the document they're signing. As an alternative to two witnesses, if you don't want to share your business with family or friends or relatives, go sign the document in front of a notary public. Next, please. So special needs trusts are another great way that you can be supported or you can support another person. And what is a special needs trust? And it's a trust specifically designed to provide a person with a disability uh, a trust that will improve their quality, enhance their quality of life while allowing them to access a pool of money that they would not otherwise be eligible for. So we mentioned earlier, if you have a pool of money, say that you are in a car accident and you win a sum of money, $50,000, well, that puts you over the, puts you over the income limit for, puts you over the asset limit for excuse me, I need to slow down here. Puts you over the asset limit for Medi-Cal, doesn't put you over the asset limit for SSI necessarily. But if you put that money into the trust, you can access those funds without it jeopardizing your eligibility for your other benefits. These trusts must be irrevocable, meaning once you put your money in, you can't take it out, but you work with your trustee to direct how those funds are going to be dispersed. You can also appoint what's called a beneficiary advocate, who can also help guide the trustee in how those benefits are to be dispersed. Next, please. So a first party trust is your money as the beneficiary. You're putting it in there to protect your benefits. The only problem with a first party trust is if you have a large sum of money, Medi-Cal has a right to pay back upon your death of all the money that Medi-Cal has expended on your behalf. And what we have found, at least in our pooled trusts with our beneficiaries and the sizes of their trusts, is that Medi-Cal takes almost every penny of the funds that you have left in your trust. If you're anxious for your relatives or friends or loved ones to receive a part of your funds, it's a possibility under first party trust. It's unlikely if you have a large Medi-Cal bill. And we don't know what that bill is until we receive it after your death. If there is money left, it goes to the beneficiaries named in your trust. Third-party trust, there is no Medi-Cal payback because it's somebody else's money. So if your grandparents want to leave you money, they set up a trust, and it's called a third-party trust because it's their money being put into trust for your benefit. So your parents, grandparents, friends, anybody puts money into a trust for you, it's a third-party trust. Medi-Cal can't touch it. But you cannot put your own money in a third-party trust. Next, please. So it's a pooled trust. If you're over 65, you must put any money you're going to put into a trust into a pooled trust. That's just the law. Nothing we can do about that. But a pooled trust is a trust set up by a nonprofit organization like JLA Trust. We have a master trust. You join the trust. It's a very quick, inexpensive, and easy process to join that trust. And your money goes into it and is pooled for investment purposes only. You still have your own individual account. Any money generated from that account, whether it's in interest or dividends, goes back to you, to your individual account. And we provide an accounting to you each quarter of all the money that came in and went out from your trust. And you can ask for an accounting at any time. You don't have to wait till the quarterly statements come out. Next, please. And why a pooled trust can be a good option. use of a joinder and joining as a part of a master trust is very cost effective. It costs, for example, if you join JLA Pool Trust, $1,300 to join. A private trust set up by a lawyer can easily cost 5 to 10,000 or more, depending on how complicated the trust is. You get professional trustee services and wealth management services in the pool trust, the same as you would a private trust, without having to pay that expensive fees. These can be created for people over 65 or under 65 if you have a qualified disability. And the other thing about a trust, and not just a pool trust, is it's very unfair to appoint a family member as a trustee and expect them to deal with all that goes on in your life, as well as battling often other family members about how your trust funds should be used. A professional trustee doesn't have that baggage, doesn't have to deal with the conflicts of interest that often arise with family members and how funds are trusted. We answer to the beneficiary only and not other family members. Next, please. So yeah, we at JLA Trust anyway, we offer a first party trust, pooled trust, a third party pooled trust, and what's called a future funded trust, where say a family member of yours wants to leave you money upon their death, they can set up the trust now to make sure that it goes into that trust upon their passing. Next,
Hey,
please.
Ron, can you talk
Yeah,
just a little bit slower? The
I
interpreters
know.
are having a hard time keeping up with you.
I apologize, Tina. And like I said, I'm speaking quickly because I am aware of the time uh, constraints. But yes, and this presentation is available to you, will be made available to you at the end of the presentation, so you can re-listen to those areas. And the slide presentations as well will be available to you. And please do not hesitate to call me if you have specific questions about things that I touched on a little too quickly. And again, quickly, what can a special needs trust buy? Uh, our philosophy at JLA Trust is that you can use your trust funds for anything that will improve your quality of life or your enjoyment of life, provided it does not conflict with the SSI or Medi-Cal rules. So, for example, cell phone, internet, streaming services, those can all be paid for. Clothes, shoes, specialized items, furniture, electronics, medical and dental expenses not covered by other health insurance, trips or vacations. We encourage you to enjoy your money. And if you are taking a vacation and you need assistance, the trust can also pay for a caregiver to join you. Um, we can also pay rent, and that used to be a disqualifier for SSI. That was done away with. We can now help you with your rent. Uh, we can help you cover excess in-home services hours. Some of our beneficiaries have bought cars. Some have bought mobile homes, and we can pay the pad rental for that and your ongoing expenses for condos. Anything that's going to improve your quality of life, and again, doesn't conflict with SSI or Medi-Cal rules, we can help you with. Next. CalAble, and again, really quickly on CalAble. We often encourage our beneficiaries to open a CalAble account because money can be transferred from your special needs trust to your CalAble account, which gives you a considerable amount more of independence than the trust does. We give you our beneficiaries a prepaid Visa debit card, which does give you a certain amount of independence because you can go pay for things directly with your card without having to come and ask us for every single penny. I need groceries. I want to go to Starbucks. I want to go to a movie. We put money in your card and you can do those things on your own. But a CalAble account does give you considerable more independence. Although when we transfer money to the trust, to your CalAble account, we have to say that it is for qualified disability expenses. The question popped up, how do you open a CalAble account? You have to do it online. So if you're not computer savvy, you need to go to somebody who is your independent facilitator, a job coach, caregiver, care manager, who can help you with opening an account. But it must be opened online, and you must link it to a bank account. So if you don't have a bank account, you need to open a bank account before you can open a CalAble account. Next, please. CalAble basics. In order to get a CalAble account, yes, you must have been diagnosed before age 26, although that's going to go up. You can open a CalAble account with $25. There's no real minimum on that. The beneficiary is always the account owner. It's not another person. So you are controlling, the beneficiary is controlling that money. Their legal representative can open it on their behalf. But again, the beneficiary is the owner. The funds are exempt from taxes, tax exempt, if they're spent on qualified disability expenses. And there's a list of those, but it's basically things that improve your quality of life. Next, please. So yeah, qualified disability expenses related to the designated beneficiary due to living with a life with disabilities. So the categories are, like I said, very broad, basically improving your quality of life, but includes food, education, housing, transportation, healthcare expenses, and more. So if you spend money that the government considers a non-qualified disability expense, you may be penalized for that in your taxes. But again, we're talking about for most people, at least our beneficiaries, we're talking fairly small amounts of money. We're not talking, thousands and thousands of dollars for most beneficiaries. And if you or you know someone who is one of those beneficiaries who has a large amount of money, I would seek out advice from your independent facilitator or an accountant or a CPA, somebody who really understands the tax laws. Next, please. Yeah, how to sign up. I already covered that. You must have a bank account. You have to do it online. It's easy to do, and you can open it with as little as $25. Next, please. CalAble accounts and special needs trusts can work together. We are able to transfer money from your special needs trust to your CalAble account, and there's no penalties for transferring it. But there is a limited amount, like we can only transfer up to $19,000 per year to a maximum of $100,000. Now, those limits can be higher if you are employed and working. Your paycheck can go in there, and that's not covered by the $100,000 limit. Next, please. Okay, yes. So the three basic ways to be protected: personal checking account, optional with a rep payee or a joint bank account owner who can help you with a bank account, a CalAble account, which allows you to put up to $19,000 a year in it, and more if you're working, to pay for qualified disability expenses. Third party special needs trusts. If you're going to receive a large inheritance, I encourage you to put that money into a special needs trust. That money will grow because it's invested by law, and that money can grow and then is there for your use throughout your lifetime. Next, please. There's a contact page, Contact JLA Trust, either M. Wolf or my name's not on there, but it's R. Parks, Parks, or our telephone is there. Michelle's extension 2, I'm extension 1. And honestly, please feel free to call with any questions you have. We're more than happy to spend time with you. And Michelle, especially, is very qualified to talk about benefits. I deal more with the trust aspects of it, the investment of your money and the disbursement of your money. But Michelle is very knowledgeable about benefits. Thank you again for inviting me. And Vivian, I guess you're going to open the floor to questions.
Hi, everyone. For the purposes of time, we won't unmute for questions, but we did get some questions in the chat. And so we'll have Ron and Tina join us for a quick session on questions. But as Ron has said, the contact information is on the slide. So please feel free to reach out to JLA Trust with any more specific questions. One of the large overarching question was, how do we get benefits counseling? Is this through the regional center? Can those not in the SDP get it?
I got it by asking for it as part of my SDP. I get it through my representative payee that offers benefits counseling. I don't know if they all offer it, but I use a representative payee company, and they do offer benefits counseling.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
No,
Ron.
go ahead. No, I had nothing to add.
Hi, Judy.
Unmute her, please.
Okay, thanks. I couldn't unmute. Yeah, lots of different groups offer benefits counseling, everybody. It's not just regional centers. You can get benefits counseling through different organizations. The Centers for Independent Living usually don't work with the developmental disability population, and they offer benefits counseling. And then there's actually independent organizations that do this. So there's a lot out there. And we encourage you to do that, especially if you are getting jobs.
Your regional center won't tell you about it. You have to ask for it. They're stingy with that kind of information.
The other correction that I would just want to quickly make for everybody is that you do not need to actually have a bank account to open up a CalAble account. I see that Sandra put this in there, and I was actually going to mention that. It's easy if you do have one, but for some people, it's hard for them to open up an account. And so what you can ask for is, if you have investments in CalAble, you can ask for certain amounts of it to be put into a Visa card, and then you can use that Visa card to pay for things. You can also ask them to send you a check, and you can, I guess, go to try to cash the check, but it's not required to have a bank account to have a
Well, thank you for that correction, Judy. My misinformation.
Yeah, it's probably easiest to do it that way, but it's not required.
Yeah, another overarching question that people have asked is about representative payee. Can this be someone that is paid? And that kind of goes into with, do we need for SDM to work? What if we don't necessarily have staff to be our supporters? What else can we do to have supporters while using SDM and finances?
You can have friends be your supporters. I don't have family, so I've always relied on my staff, but I also do have friends that help me with supported decision making. Judy doesn't work for me, but she's one of my supported decision making people.
Yeah, and I think that there's lots of different ways to get a representative payee. Sometimes you can ask regional center, if you trust them, to be your representative payee. Sometimes there are professionals who can be paid to be your representative payee. There's lots of different ways to do it if you don't have a family member.
If
Right.
you're in the SDP, they'll give you money in your budget to pay for your representative payee. If you have a company do it.
Yeah. Just be careful that you don't communicate to your friends that they can be paid for being a rep payee. They're not allowed to be paid. It has to be an organization that is approved by Social Security Administration in order to be paid.
And I know we had a lot of great questions, but one of the ones that I saw asked a lot is talking about what counts as household assets and income. Is this considered by your W-9 income or other assets? What properties are included and are exempt?
Well, assets would be any property in your name, and it would include things like your home, your car, uh, in theory, your furniture, bank accounts.
Boats.
Yeah, yeah. So anything that is tangible could be considered an asset.
That you own. So I saw somebody
Yes,
put
that
in
you
the
own.
right. Somebody put in the chat asking if they pay rent to an apartment. That is not considered an asset.
No.
And then kind of the last grouping of questions that we have is related to CalAble. Is this money that we put in, is this money that we can save for emergencies and not have it impact our assets? And then can a parent of a minor apply for CalAble accounts?
Yes.
Yes to both.
Yes to both.
Lots of children have CalAble accounts, and
Yeah.
they put money in there from, grandma gives them $25 for their birthday, and that goes into the CalAble account.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Ron and Tina and Judy, for helping us answer some of these questions for supported decision making in finances. Again, I know there was some more technical questions that people may have, and I really encourage you to reach out to Ron individually to have those questions answered. And so, with that, we would like to bring on Darlene and Carly to talk about supported decision making in education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Carly, you're here. Bring yourself on, I think,
Yeah,
or
Carly.
unmute yourself.
There you go.
She's around, I think.
I'm working
Great.
on my iPad and I've only used it a couple times, so I'm trying to get used to it.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We're going to talk about our next section is going to be supported decision making and education. I'm Darlene Hansen, and I'm a empowerment on the empowerment team. I work as a trainer working with the self advocates. And my background is speech and language, so I spend a lot of time thinking about how to support people to be a part of their decision making. That's for sure. Um, Carly, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Carly. I am a person with disabilities, but I'm also a founder and owner of Empower Connect Services, which is a company based to help individuals with disabilities, special needs, IEPs, education, support decision making. Offer a lot of different services. So, based on virtual, only work virtually. So, um, yeah.
So we just wanted to start off with this. Despite special education best practices advocating for the least restrictive option, schools commonly promote conservatorship as the only option for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And as we go through our topics today on this slide, we'll talk about preparing for supported decision making, getting student involvement in the IEPs, and how supported decision making really builds the foundation as we look into transition planning as well. And so, as we go into preparing for supported decision making, we want to talk a little bit about school to conservatorship pipeline. Supported decision making is relatively new in California, with it being introduced into law in 2022. And oftentimes, conservatorships are pushed as the default option without discussing alternatives. And so, we hope to share with you what the alternative can be supported decision making. And oftentimes, parents are pushed this way because students can receive until 21 under there is this fear that parents and other supporters can't be involved in their educational decisions after a student turns 18. And so we just want to emphasize that the law with supported decision making allows for student chosen supporters to be present with them at meetings and in conversations about their educational decisions. And on this slide, we just have an example of an educational disclosure form, which some schools may need in order to assist in supporting adults that are adults in their educational decision making. And we'll pass it off to Darlene.
Great. Okay, so we're going to get started thinking about how this works in the school world. And I would bet that many of you think that that you need to start thinking about it when your child's going to be 18. But actually, I want you to start thinking about it when your child's 6 and 7 and 8 and 12 and 14, because we need to start practicing decision making and supporting individuals to make decisions at the earliest ages possible. We don't all of a sudden at 18 magically start making decisions. We, people, learn how to do that through learning different kinds of critical thinking skills, practicing making mistakes, having feedback, fixing your mistakes, making a mistake again. All of that is how people develop the thinking skills that you would want to have so that you feel comfortable saying, yeah, my person has a support team that understands them and they can be a part of these decisions that are going to be coming their way as adults, young and old adults. I don't know, I'll do a couple, Carly, and then you jump in, okay?
Okay.
Part of I think that a big piece of the story is presuming competence. Now, some people think that presuming competence means that if I say, oh, I presume competence, that I know and I believe that I'm right in saying that everybody has the ability to think through all situations, is very smart, da da da. All these kinds of words come into our head. That's not what presuming competence means. Presuming competence means that I believe that whoever I'm talking to has the ability to hear, learn, and be a part of, maybe not hear with their ears if they're hearing impaired, but to hear, to understand, to get the information if we take the time and the responsibility to help that happen. And so I presume I don't need to shelter you, if I presume competence, from certain topics. Okay? I need to inform you about the topics. So to me, that's what presuming competence means. I think that as we presume competence and we include individuals, then that person starts developing some familiarity with their circle of support, and the persons in that circle of support understand better how to help the person that they're on the team for. Carly, I think you have a story about taking chances and risks, right?
Yeah, I think that I you gotta take a chance in order to see the risk sometimes. And it can be difficult when you're trying to create a team because you don't know how everyone's gonna work. So you have to take that chance of doing that, but also you might see that risk at the end. Um, but I think that risk and chances sometimes go together. And when you're trying to when you have a team of obviously supported decision making, you wanna have that risk. You know what I mean? You don't want to have that risk, but you want to have that chance to be able to work with everyone. And I think that's the most important part about SDM is the fact that you want the fact of that.
Yeah, I think that sometimes the word risk is a scary word, and people think that everything is about getting hit by a bus, that those are the risks we're talking about,
Sorry.
or authorizing an operation that's not the right operation or something along that line, or buying a house when you don't have the money to buy a house, or these kinds of things. Those aren't the risks that we're talking about. They're risks you hold in your head, but there's so many little risks that come up for people as we learn, as all of us learn to be risk takers or good problem solvers, either way. And those risks are coming up on a daily basis, right?
Yes, and
So
I will agree with you 100%, Darlene, because I feel like that you sometimes don't see the risk, but at the end you do until they're big.
yeah, and I think that that's what gets us to the last bullet on this page is respecting choices and choice making. And we're going to go to the next slide for this one is a big deal. It's and a lot of times in at least for sure in the group that I work with, people think about choices as choices of where you want to eat, what movie you want to watch, what activity you want to go do, what you want your schedule to be for the day. But there's so many other choices that we make. It might be a choice at the doctor's office. Do you want to take this medication or do you want to do supplements? Do you want to, do, there's all kind, that's a medical choice. Choices at the finance, like Tina was talking about. Do you want to save your money right now for this TV, or do you want to go ahead and go on this spontaneous weekend away with your friends? Those are choices. And we have to help people learn how to participate in those kind of choices as well, um, and take that risk. Maybe you do pick the weekend away instead of the TV, and then when you thought you were going to buy that TV, you're bummed because you don't have the money anymore. You got to start over again. Like Tina said, that's not the end of the world. You start over again. So remember to really consider the choices that you're providing, um, and promote curiosity and seeking support when needed. So you want your person to get good at asking questions, get good at saying, Mom, can you help me with this? Or friend, have you ever had this happen before? How'd that go for you? These are questions. It's not questions about what'd you have for breakfast or what's your favorite song or who's your favorite group. These are real questions, questions that say, give me some more information about this topic that we're talking about. That's so important. And you can be an AAC user, an augmented communication user, or you can be a speaking person. But we have to teach people and support people, really, not really teach them, allow them the opportunity to explore those kinds of questions and then reinforce that, okay, let me help you with that. Because otherwise, if you squash it, people don't ask questions anymore. They just figure that you're going to tell them what to do. So there's real dignity in that kind of risk, and teaching people to say, I don't know, that's a big deal. People don't often learn how to say, I don't know, especially in certain educational settings, because they're always told to try again or make a better choice. And when that's what you keep hearing, you don't hear that I don't know is an option. And for the rest of us, when someone says, I don't know, I step up and say, oh, well, let me explain it to you then. Right? Any other stories come to mind about making choices, Carly?
Um, I I think that I think people sometimes are so quick to make a decision or to make a choice sometimes, and I don't mean to mean this in a negative way, but sometimes it can be negative, and you're like, oh my gosh, why did I make the decision? But then you realize I made it so quickly, and you just have to remember, if you have that time to think about it before you make that choice, think about it, and with the support of your supporters, I think you'll have that time to think and go ask your supporter, hey, I need help with this, or I need to make this choice, but I don't want to make it where it can affect me.
Mm-hmm. And all of these things that we're talking about are things that can be taught, um, emphasized, organized, presented, topics of conversation and lessons in a school setting, as well as in your homes. So the next section we're going to talk about is getting involved in your IEPs. You can have IEPs written to work on these kinds of things. So I use the example of asking questions. You can have the speech and language person work on asking questions, but when they're working on that with you as a person, you don't want the questions of what's your favorite concert to go to, or what do you like to do with it. You want the questions of, I don't understand. Tell me more about that. What do you mean? Um, what's going to happen if I make this choice? Those are the kind of questions you want people learning to make, because that's what's going to help them be a part of this supported decision making. And if you're a parent, it's going to help you feel more confident that you're preparing your child to be active in this supported decision making activity that they're going to get involved in their futures. Should we move on to IEPs, Carly?
Yes.
All right, you're on.
Sorry, can you guys hear me better?
They're fine. Yep.
Okay. IEPs, a little story about me. My very first IEP was when I was in seventh grade. End of my seventh grade, but really attending more IEPs when I was in eighth grade. And I will say it was an eye-opening experience going to your first IEP meeting, especially learning that you have a team that's trying to help you, trying to succeed, making these goals to help you have a better chance of being successful in education. And the biggest thing is, after all these years that I've been in IEP meetings, I will say student involvement in like decisions is a big one. If you are a person that wants to be involved and wants to know more of like the supports that you're getting, 100% go to your IEP meeting, because that is where you'll have the sit down with the whole team, talk about different goals and speech and OT and different services that you can get, aids, having all that together. And it can actually, like Darlene said earlier, you can get you can ask your therapist or someone in the team that I need help trying to ask better questions, or I want to know more of my services. I want to really work on my goals, and I want to make these one of my goals to answer better questions, or ask better questions, I should say. And it will help you become a better decision maker. In SD, sorry, I almost said SDP. In SDM, that is another aspect of that as well, where you'll get that help in education and at home. And you'll have a better outcome with transitions. I think transferring or having the transition from high school to adulthood is very challenging. But if you have those goals that you want in place and you go to like a college or somewhere that they can help you, even though you may not be in school, if you go to a day program or you go somewhere that can help you, they can follow your goals. And I really advocate on student involvement in IEPs if they're able to. And having that SDM in place.
I think that when you talked about becoming better decision maker, it's really good for a person, any person, when they get to be in these meetings. We're going to talk about them getting involved in the meetings themselves, but you start hearing how people are asking questions. Like, it's not already planned out. This is supposed to be a conversation. And I think that's reinforced when a person is actually in the meeting and they can see that mom's asking a question, the teacher's asking a question, the program specialist is asking a question, and I can ask a question too, right? So it doesn't just magically appear in front of you. And you see, when you see that happening, and then you go back and the next year you see it happening again, and then you get to be a part of that decision making process, that's an experience that's going to transfer over to when you're an adult in an IPP, or when you're sitting in a banker's office, or when you're sitting at a doctor's office, right? And that's the best place to learn those kinds of things. Okay, next slide. Okay, Carly, you got some ideas on how to get involved as a student?
Yes, I do. I think that one idea is go to your case manager, whatever they call them, case managers. And they're called case managers.
Service coordinators. Service coordinators as an IPE. Or
And say, I really want to get involved. I want to be at my next IEP meeting, and I want to share what my passions are, share what my purpose is, share if you have goals and dreams, that if you want to go to college, if you want to know what you want to do in life, make an all about me poster, or profiles or whatever, and actually and honestly write your own goals and present them at your IEP meeting, because that is the one big way that you can start getting involved, is that if you write your goals and they're like, oh yeah, we could maybe work on this, or and stuff like that, that way it shows more participation and involvement, that you want to be a part of it. Don't get me wrong, first IEP meeting is very scary because you don't know what's going to happen, or you don't know all the aspects of it, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be like, oh, this is a breeze. But yeah, I mean, attending IEPs are a huge thing if you can.
yeah.
And if you want to be a part of it.
Jenny was writing in the chat while you were talking that she feels like the IEP meetings for her son are so terrible, she doesn't want to expose him to that. And I've been in IEP meetings where I'm grateful that the person's not there, because of that kind of experience. And I think that that's a culture thing. We have to start changing the culture. And a suggestion might be that you tell the team ahead of time, my son's coming to the meeting, and we need to keep it respectful. The stuff that's said that's negative, that you wouldn't want your son to hear, is not necessarily does not need to be said the way it's said. There's nothing said in a meeting that sounds terrible that has to be said that way. And I think that the providers have to be respectful of that. I know I've sat in an IEP meeting that comes to mind specifically, where the whole team kept talking about how he would have to learn this first. He would have to learn this first. He would have to learn this first. And he was 21 years old. And I finally said, okay, I just need to stop everybody for a second. I need you to stop saying that, because he does not need to learn anything first. It's our job to help him be that in that place. And so, and then when they said it again, the school psychologist sitting next to me, she came up, she pointed out, she said, oh, hang on, guys, we weren't going to talk like that anymore. So that kind of thing has to happen, I think. And it's a culture change. And there, again, there's nothing that has to be said that's so terrible in the terrible way that they're saying it. They can say things better. And I think you need to call people out on that. And they can be polite, and they can be respectful. Mari, you had something really quick? Mm-hmm. You want to go ahead real quick? Mm-hmm. Wait, I think you keep on. You're muted. I'm going to unmute you. Don't do anything. Okay, there. Go.
Hold on, because now I'm gone. Hold on.
Yeah, go.
Okay, thank you. No, that's a topic so close to my heart. My son is already 20, graduated from high school. But what I want to say to all parents, you have to set rules. Agendas work beautifully. And on the agenda, you can put the rules, when it comes to talking about your son needs when you go into the IPP, something that worked for me, that was the agenda, set rules, and nobody's going to talk about my son in front of my son. So usually the IEP, you can set it up and, you said respectfully to the whole team. And you're going to be discussing things that he cannot do, that he needs to accomplish, or all the, things that are going not very well for him at school. You can discuss it before he can come into the IEP meeting. So in the past for me was, let's talk about all the IEPs, the issues that's going on with him and things that he has to learn, like you just said, but not in front of him. When he comes into the IEP meeting, it's because we're going to talk about all the positive, okay? All the support that he's going to get to accomplish the goals that is on his IEP. And when you set those goals, nobody's going to talk about your son in front of your son. And that is, for me, always work, because that's the rule that for me as a mother was very important, to keep his self-esteem on the right position, in the right place. So he was, happier to go to school, that rather to go to school knowing that all the teachers talking about all the things that he cannot do. So, just want to share with that, set a rule, and make that as a priority, that his self or her self-esteem is very important. And talk to the team that, when he comes in, is because you guys already discussed all the things that he needs to learn. So when he comes, just talk about the positive and all the support that he's going to have, to accomplish all the goals in the IPP. So I want to share that. So thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mari. Okay, preparing for the IEP. Our next slide. Okay, Carly, did you want to start with like understanding what the IEP and what that was like for you? Open us with, how did you get to know what your IEP was going to be each year?
Yeah, I can start. It was in the beginning it was very hard. But I will say I got used to it very quickly. Luckily I had a very good IEP team in my 8th grade year where she was able to help me walk me through, and we had a pre-meeting with her, not with me and her, to go over things before we went in. And so sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
I think, did you have a story? Oh, no, I think this might be something, but like, how did you figure out what an IEP was? Like,
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes, you're right,
yeah.
darling. Thank you. So I figured out an IEP was all I knew was there was a group of people coming together trying to figure out goals for me, trying to figure out services and all this stuff. But after attending my real one, my first one was like I said, it was a big eye-opening experience. I knew there was like a lot of testing involved and all this different stuff, but in reality, an IEP is very helpful when you have a disability, trying to get services through the education world. And I think a big thing is reflecting on your strengths, your preferences, support needs, and interests. I mean, that IEP meeting is all about you, and they want to help you. They want to find your strengths. They want to find your weaknesses to help to get back to your strengths. They want to know your preferences, and they want to know your support needs. How can you be supported while you're at school? And your interests. Like, I remember being in high school and they're like, okay, what is your interest? I'm like, I want to be in agriculture. I was in agriculture for all 4 years and I loved it. And I blossomed in that program so much. But taking a regular course, I'm not going to say I failed, but it was struggling. And really, when you go into your school year, make goals for yourself and see at the end of the school year if you achieved any of those goals. And if you did, be proud of yourself. I mean, don't be negative if you don't achieve a goal, but honestly, I would write goals down and be like, okay, these are my 3 top goals or my 5 top goals of the year, and I want to see if I can achieve them by the end of the year. I achieved most of them. There's maybe 1 or 2 years that I didn't achieve 2 of them, But I took them and I rolled them off in the next year, and I achieved them. So you just gotta work hard at it, and presenting those goals to your team at the IEP meeting. And note, you can call an IEP meeting anytime you want. It is not at that triennial or that annual that they do every year. You yourself, as an advocate, as a self advocate, can call an IEP meeting at any point during the school year if something's not right, or you're needing help more, you're seeing different things. There are several different reasons that you can actually call an IEP meeting, and some people don't know that. Some people, oh, we just do it at the annual or whatever. No, call your IEP meeting. Obviously, you can't call it when it's summertime, but all through school you can.
Yeah. And I think that as far as preparing a person for their IEP meeting, it's a good thing to go through it as a parent or teacher ahead of time. Go, hey, here's what we're going to talk about. Here's what I'm thinking for next year. How does this fit with what you're thinking for next year or next, however it works out. I know even in my own professional work, I typically September, I'll say to a person, what do you want to work on for this next year? What's your thoughts? Or January, okay, got a new year. What are we going to work on? Or summer, what's going to work on this summer? Constantly reminding people that you got to be in this with me. You don't just come to work with me because it's my hour of the day. Like, what are we doing here? And helping people, no matter what the age is, um, once a person or a child, I'm figuring like upper elementary kids, start talking about, well, what do you want to learn to do different this time? Or, it could be, I want to, it could be my device. It could be, and you might do it through choice boards and you might do it through yes, no questions, but getting them involved in it. Okay. And so prepare ahead of time is a good idea. Getting on time. So I'm going to go on to the next one. During the IEP, create ambitious goals with using I statements. Like the goals would say, I want to work on such and such a thing. Okay. I want to learn to problem solve in personal situations with friends. However, whatever it is, the I statement is. But the types of goals that in order to, as you're thinking about supported decision making specifically, this isn't your whole IEP. This is thinking about preparing your person for supported decision making and using the educational system to do that. Types of goals: decision making goals, critical thinking goals, self determination goals, self advocacy, problem solving, self care. How do you organize yourself? Okay, how do you organize your thinking? How do you organize um, just considering like the past and the future, that kind of organization, that's important. And really to do these things, you need communication. Okay. And it doesn't mean you need to speak. It just means you need communication. Your person needs to be a part of this. And it might be that they're a part of this in that they're making a grimace face when you have a bad idea that you're suggesting. Okay. That counts. Or a smile when you have a good idea. That counts. It doesn't have to be a whole nother presentation on different systems to use for augmentative communication for individuals. But the idea is that you as a family and you as the person that's identified in the IEP want to build skills and that encourage this kind of decision making so that everybody you can feel confident and your parents can feel confident that no, we have a system set up. It's going to work. And here's what this system looks like. Here's the people in our world that help this whole process happen. So that's really important. Carly, you want to add anything to this? Oops, I lost Carly. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Carly, you can come in if you need to. So after the IEP, now the IEP is over, and you're going to collaborate, and you're going to have between the staff and the family and yourself, and collaborate on how you're going to measure these goals, who's going to be the focus of these goals. You might create videos with of practicing videos are helpful of videos of maybe even just how did the IEP work out for you? What are you going to work on this year? Kind of goal videos, but you can always use visuals as our point. We want to throw that in there for that reason. But after the meeting, teacher or family need to go through that document and talk about it with the person. But you as a family want to make sure that you sign the goals that reflect working towards supported decision making. Okay, even if you have a 10-year-old and you're not sure, you're still in your head thinking, I don't know if this is going to happen. I'm telling you, you don't know yet what you're going to be talking about when your person's 18 years, if the kid's 12 or if he's 6. You don't know. So prepare for best outcome, because I don't know if you're going to get the best outcome, but I know that if you don't prepare for the best outcome, you're not going to get it. Okay, so because you're not going to see it available. So you want to always be preparing for the best outcome. And if you think supported decision making isn't part of your life yet, I'm telling you it is. It is a part of your life now, because you're going to want to know as a parent that here's the people that understand, here's the people that support us as a family. Those are the people that are going to be involved in the supported decision making team. Persons in supported decision making don't have to make decisions by themselves. Okay, but everybody on the team needs to understand how that person makes decisions, when they need help, how we help you. That's what supported decision making is. Okay, gonna go on real quick. We got sorry, 2 more slides here, guys. Transitioning. When we get to preparing for life determination.
I will.
Oh, sorry, go Carly.
Just one really
Yeah.
quick. Going on that last slide.
Mhm.
I don't know if Darlene mentioned this. I had to step out of the room for a minute, but don't sign that form that they have you sign unless you review it first. That's a big thing that they're gonna make you want to sign it, but you can actually I think you have, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone please, but I think you have 30 days before you have to sign it. And you can review it in that time, and you can take it home, review it with family member or someone else that that knows IEPs, or if you have an advocate or something like that, that can help you break down the IEPs before you sign that last form that they have you sign. You sign, but even if you sign it, you can still make changes, but you have to call another IEP meeting.
That's right. Well, and it's harder, yeah, but
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to SDM and transition planning. And what we want you to know here is that it's student-led efforts to determine their goals. And so again, we've been talking about that. But you've got your ITP, your transition plan is coming. It comes into factor as you get older. Again, your person needs to be involved in that for sure. I have sat in so many meetings where the person's not involved. Sometimes the parent's not involved. It's just the teachers putting their ideas out there again. That is not a transition plan. You want the goals for independent living, community participation, all that kind of thing. But again, you as a person, you may not be comfortable taking all that responsibility when you're 18 years old on by yourself. That's okay, because you have a support team to help you. Okay. My kids are in their 30s. They still ask me, Mom, I'm looking at starting a business. What's that going to look like for me? That's a normal thing that everybody does. We all have these conversations, and you might not have that conversation with your person, but you can have a conversation about living. Can I keep living here? Is this okay that I keep living here? Or maybe I'm thinking I want to start moving out. Like, I don't even know what that means to move out. Well, how am I going to do that? And so you bring in your support team. Though these conversations are things that are going to happen as an adult, and your person is involved in that directly when you're doing supported decision making. Nobody can change it up. I have a person I used to work with, and she was conserved. We didn't have supported decision making at the time, and she could communicate, but she was conserved. And her sister decided that she was going to move to the desert when her entire life had been in our community. All her friends were there, her support teams were there, but that was the decision that was made. And the courts agreed with her sister because she was conservator. So she moved away. I don't know what she does with her life now. So preparing for these life and these self-determination goals and these self-determination projects and things like that are really important. And then Carly, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, um, transition, it can be very challenging after high school. I mean, when I graduated high school, it was obviously during COVID, so it was a lot of shutdown, but um you had like a lot of it, like doing the research, you know, finding day programs that can help you, having that team, having that decision making team can help you get the support that you need or want to help you in your adult world, in your adulthood life journey. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you if you set goals, like I said earlier, setting the goals of you know, if you want to live independently at, you know, a certain age, or you want to go out in the community and have that participation and also advocating. I think a big thing is advocating, um, and for your needs, for the community needs. And I'm still, you know, I'm out there. As I said earlier when I introduced myself, is I have my own company, so I'm advocating and I'm helping others, but on my own needs, I'm still having that services of my own because I still need them. So it's a balance.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I just want to finish up with the IPP. You're going to transition your goals from the IEP to the IPP. Okay, the IPP is supposed to be person-centered. Actually, your IEP should be too, but leaving that behind your life because now you're out of school. So it's a person-centered life, and you want to make sure that those goals transition over into that experience, and that your lifestyle has become about you as a person, with your support team helping you do that. Your vision's the guiding piece. Regional Center's responsibility is to provide services to support your goals, your personal goals, what you want for your life. Okay. And you can have people talk about that with you, and you can have people answer questions with you, and you can have people speak up for you. That's fine. That's all allowed. Okay. Vivian, do you have any question? Okay. You want to read this part, Vivian, and then do any questions that came up?
So we'll end out with this quote, just you have the ability to protect your child even more with support without the court. And it's called supported decision making. And I really hope that learning about finances and education today and seeing how supported decision making can really benefit our self-advocates or children with disabilities in their decision making process. Next, I wanted to share our feedback training. We love to get your feedback on this training on how we can improve, as well as provide the link to our supported decision-making handbook. We have provided the links. They'll be in the chat as well, and we have them both in English and in Spanish. There's not as many questions for our education piece here, but I did see Rasheen ask about, do we need to draft a document for supported decision making? And you don't if you want to practice it informally, unless you want to practice it formally using a supported decision making agreement, which can be found in our handbook. You don't need to have a document to practice it at all. There weren't many questions in the chat, but I do want to emphasize what everyone has been sharing in there, the importance of self-advocate participation in their IEPs and how that is so beneficial in developing their self-advocacy skills. And some self-advocates shared, you know, nothing about us without us. And making them be a part. I also see families sharing about the importance of having them in there, but setting, like Mari was saying earlier, setting boundaries, letting them know what is appropriate to be sharing when your child is attending IEP meetings. Um, I also want to call attention to people talking about how the same thing can happen with the IPP. Remember,
Mhm.
don't sign the document if you haven't had the chance to read it and go over it with your supporters yet. Don't let them force you into signing that.
And I think that as a person on the support team side of it, if your person you think I don't think he grasps because you can tell by when they're talking what's happening or what people are talking about, then step up and say, you know what, here, let me back this up a little bit for you. Um, Real quick, I have a friend that was hearing impaired and he was employed by a school district and then he had a mental health crisis and they brought interpreters in for him because they loved him. He'd worked there for years, but he was in crisis. And the interpreters were just literally interpreting what the bosses were saying as they were trying to help him. And he wasn't understanding and processing it, but the interpreter doesn't know him, so he doesn't know that. So I came in and I was able to translate that. That's okay to do. So you can step in and say, you know what? Let's review this. Tonight when we go home, I'm going to tell you more about that topic or whatever the case may be. Um, because that's what you get to do as a support person for the person in supported decision making. Those are things that happen. I think people think it means they're out there on their own. No, we're here helping, okay? Whoever is your support team. So I just wanted to leave you with that.
And then for our final note here before we end today is someone asked about if they already have a conservatorship, can they easily switch to supported decision making? I think this is really important, right? Some of us didn't know about this option beforehand. And so the big part is for that, you do have to create a supported decision making agreement. And so I highly encourage you to look at our handbook, which will detail out more on how to do that, as well as CVU hopes to host more sessions in the future about that process. But
Mhm.
if both you as the conservator and your child as the conservatee both mutually agree that you want to end the conservatorship, that can be brought up to your court investigators or to the courts to help facilitate that process and to prove that you are using supported decision making, and that you want to end the conservatorship there. And the last note before we end today is also you have the right to request a draft of your IEP before the meeting as well to further prepare you for IEP sessions there. And so I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us in today to learning about supported decision making in finances and education, and hope to see everyone at our session next week where we'll talk about supported decision making in healthcare and in voting as well. So thank you, everyone.